Welcome, friends,
to the How-To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
I'm Uncle Dan.
And I'm Uncle Doug.
And this is your user's guide to life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is your first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear. That's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields,
we're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, you only get one that we know of, so you'd better make the most of it. Yeehaw!
Gentlemen,
hello.
Uncles 3.
Yes.
Here we are once again, another wonderful show full of incredibly important information.
Yes, stuff that will save your soul.
Save your very soul.
Your immortal soul.
Or maybe might save you a few bucks on car insurance.
Might win you a wedge in Trivial Pursuit.
Yeah, well, that's possibly true.
So, Dan, I think you're gonna take a look at something today.
I'm going to stare intently at it.
Yeah. And I'm going to talk about our most favorite branch of the military.
And I'm going to talk about stupidity times stupidity.
Yay!
Which equals Mormonism.
Harry.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we're going to make a kind of an announcement a little later in the show.
Yeah, there is the announcements. I'm extremely excited about this because 'tis the season for giving.
Indeed.
And you're going to be talking, Mark, a little bit about who not to give to.
Who I think you shouldn't give to.
But we have decided that we, as a group, want to give, and we're going to donate a portion of our
Patreon take.
Our earnings for the entire month of December to the Freedom from Religion Foundation. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show.
Yep.
But yeah, we're very excited about that, and yeah, let's do a show.
Let us proceed. Well, Uncle Doug.
Yo.
I'm curious why Uncle Dan is staring at me so intently.
I'm glad he's not staring at me like that.
Right? It's pretty menacing.
I'm a terrifying person just in general.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's just my normal. I have resting evil face.
But somehow you turned it up to 11 just now, and I don't know what I've done to merit this intensity.
Well, Uncle Mark, it's because today I want to explore Ayin Hara, or Buddha, or Malokyo, or Nazar, or Drishti, or Mati, or An Ayin, or Mal Deoho. That's right. The evil eye.
Wow.
Nice.
Thank you.
We need more theremin always.
We all need a little more theremin.
Our whole show could use about 50% more theremin.
Yeah. And heroin.
And heroin. No, I've got enough of that. I just don't share. Listen, why did I mention so many names for this phenomenon, you might ask?
Yeah, I was asking.
Because, holy shit, this thing is believed in all over the goddamn world.
Right.
It transcends religions and cultures. Belief in the evil eye is a superstition, or rather a series of superstitions, that has a life all its own.
Right.
But it is also rooted in basically all of the Abrahamic religions. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's so pervasive.
Right.
So what is the evil eye? Well, it depends. It varies depending on who you ask. But at its root, it is the absolutely plausible belief that a mean look from another person can kill you.
Right.
Or at least curse you and to have some bad luck or something.
And typically it's probably old women.
It can be old women,
right.
Although they're also the ones that you should probably look to be redeemed from an evil eye. So,
so they have the disease and the cure.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. I wish I was an old woman.
I mean, you kind of are.
Soon enough.
Getting there.
Exactly. Soon enough, Doug.
So basically, I love this superstition because it unites Muslims, Jews, Christians, Hindus, ancient Greeks and Romans, African folk religions. It is widely believed to this day all over the Middle East, West Asia, South and Eastern Europe, Central and South America, East, West, and North Africa. Basically, wildly varying cultures that all think that their neighbor can make them fall down or catch a cold or lose all of their money or even die by looking at them funny.
It's beautiful what unites us.
Right?
Isn't it? Why do we fight?
Right.
Right.
So, yeah, looking at them funny or by complimenting them, or by giving them advice, or by opening a window, or basically doing anything at all.
Boy, it's easier to list what can't kill you.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, the side effects are insane.
Yeah, it's not good for you. It's unhealthy, frankly. Right. And this belief dates back at least 5,000 years.
Sure.
Records cropping up among the ancient Sumerians. They've also found amulets that are believed to be for warding off the evil eye in Syria, dating back to 3,300 BCE.
Wow.
It is, as long as people have had eyes, somebody has assumed that you can do bad things with them.
Yeah, well, there is, that penetrating stare. There is that, that kind of blue steel that is. We're trained to look to each other's eyes as the windows to our very souls.
Well, and some of that comes from the ancients, going back all the way to classic antiquity. You've got Plutarch, who theorized that the eyes could actually produce deadly rays that would shoot out at each other. Pew, pew.
Yeah, Superman.
Absolutely. Pliny the Elder also discussed the power of enchanters who could zap you with their gaze. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, the word fascination comes from, bewitching someone.
Right, being able to, hypnotize them with your eyes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so, if someone were to fascinate you, you should probably seek the help of an amulet or some sort of talisman.
Right.
You can actually find trinkets and baubles to ward off the evil eye everywhere, from the streets of Marrakesh or Punjab to the jewelry section, I shit you not, of Bloomingdale's, which is pages long of just evil eye stuff. Or, and I'm not making this up, model Gigi Hadid's new shoe line, I Love.
Okay.
Does Gwyneth Paltrow sell an anti-evil eye vaginal egg?
I'm sure she does.
Because if someone looks up there, you want to be ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doug and I have actually purchased talismans to ward off the evil eye in Armenia.
Yeah.
I believe you.
Yeah.
That's 100% a thing. Now, describe the ones that you guys got.
They were like a little glass heart-shaped object with kind of a iris, looked like a little eye.
Yeah.
Now, you had mentioned before blue eyes. Was your thing blue?
It was blue.
Because often blue, a lot of the time, the way the legend works is that bluer eyes are eviler, and are also strangely less capable of warding off the evil eye. Like if your own eyes are blue, you're more susceptible to this.
Science has proven both those things true.
Yeah. Both of those things, 100% true.
Yeah.
That's just ocular knowledge. Everybody knows that. So the talisman that people use, or talismen?
Talus persons. Yeah.
Attorney's talisman.
Yes. That people use to ward these things off are often blue, either discs or balls, or a lot of times it's a hand with an eye in the palm of the hand.
The eye of Fatima.
Yeah, exactly. The hand of Fatima, or the hand of Miriam if it's Jewish.
I dropped out of art school, bitches. Yeah, finally.
Yeah, so
value.
Yeah. Hand of Fatima in Muslim culture, Hamsa in Jewish culture, which is often called the hand of Miriam. Hamsa is actually not Jewish culture. That's other cultures. But Hamsa, yes, the Hamsa. With weirdly, like the pinky is also a thumb. It looks a little disconcerting, but that's how they keep it symmetrical. I don't know.
Hey, if it keeps the evil away.
Yeah.
I like how what's disconcerting to you is that the pinky kind of points out a little bit, not the fucking eyeball in the center of the hand.
Hey, that's just knowledge. That's everybody just knows that's
real.
Your
fucking ableism talking, Doug.
Right?
Palm eye is a serious condition.
Right. They can also be called nazar, which is a word that also means evil eye. Fighting fire with fire, I suppose.
Yeah.
Usually, it represents it's an eye in some form or another.
Yeah.
And like I said, often blue, usually concentric circles of dark blue, white, light blue, and then dark blue again. And these are everywhere.
Do you remember those, Doug? When we bought those in Armenia, there was just like
mine was different. I just got a kid's foot. So it wasn't even blue.
I got a punch in the snout. And I'll tell you, if you've ever been stared at by a really pissed off Armenian policeman, you know the evil eye is
you
real.
want all the talismans.
Yes. It's intense.
Well, and that's the thing, right? This thing crops up because people look funny at other people. If you look disdainfully at another person, a lot of the time that's considered the evil eye.
Right.
If you look with envy upon somebody else's stuff, that's an evil eye, and
a violation of the 10th commandment.
right,
Which
and
we know.
and can cause apparently the person to lose their stuff if it's not warded off. A lot of these cultures have some way of warding it off, including spitting 3 times, or if it's Christian, crossing themselves and then
Right.
doing 2 fingers at the person. Sometimes it's the pinky and the pointer finger pointed.
Kind of the devil horns.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, Italians wear
A lot of cologne.
cornetto, which is a little horn.
Yeah.
Little image of a horn, and that's supposed to ward it off. It is the weirdest thing. Now, Doug, I wanted to ask you, when you were in Honduras, did anybody have an evil eye superstition that you encountered?
Actually, up on the north coast of Honduras, there's a tremendous amount of African influence up there.
Yeah.
Because of
Slavery.
lots of bad things that happened.
Yes.
There was a lot of voodoo, and so there was a lot of that talisman, evil eye stuff going on.
Which is interesting, but it also comes so a lot of in South and Central America, there in Latin America and Brazil, all over the place. There is a lot of the African influence that has it, but also the Southern European influence, the Spanish and Portuguese influence has a lot of tradition of this, and Italians also have it. And it can get really intense. I read an account of a woman who was of Arabic descent, and when she would go and visit her ancestral home, her grandparents, and all of the women around her, anything she did, people, oh no, if she turned on the AC and it was too cold and she wasn't wearing a sweater or she wasn't wearing a scarf or whatever, you can't do that. And if she rolled down the windows, or if her friend went out with her hair wet, like all of these things. And it all comes down to the eye, the evil eye. What? Like all of this becomes this curse that you can get, and there are different prayers in Islam. There's a prayer that you say to get rid of it, or you do a little thing.
It sounds exhausting.
It is super intense and super weird, and it can be almost anything can be attributable to if your neighbor if you feel like they're looking at you funny. Boy, you better say a prayer. You better do a thing.
How great to live that way, right? I mean, to have your life completely controlled and bedeviled by such a blizzard of superstition, that you don't have time to get in trouble.
Yeah, no, and ways of warding it off can be delightful, including things like pinching your buttocks or somebody pinching your. It was unclear. The pinching of buttocks is one of the things.
That's the excuse. Yes, Your Honor, I was warding off the evil eye.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Armenians.
Sure,
you
it is.
mentioned Armenia. Did you say Armenia?
Yeah,
yeah.
we were in
That's
Armenia.
the pinching of the buttocks is a thing there.
Really?
Yeah, things like pointing fingers in specific ways.
Yeah.
Saying certain prayers and all sorts of it's just nutty.
Starting a multi-generational vendetta, probably.
Yeah. No, I mean here's the problem, and you've stumbled on like the real harm of this sort of thing is that your neighbor can just be having a bad day, and it can be enough to start a feud.
Right.
It can be enough to start like really bad blood between people,
right?
Because they assume that when you look grumpily at them,
you're
cursing them.
The stink eye is literally fucking up their life.
Right, exactly. Resting bitch face is just permanently cursing everyone around you.
I believe one of the witches that was hung at Salem, obviously witches, was convicted of having said good morning to a neighbor. Yeah,
like this kind of thing.
Well, that's just fucked up.
Yeah.
That is unacceptable.
Yeah, exactly. In rural Mexico, a folk healer called a curandero will sweep raw chicken egg over the body of a victim to absorb the power of the person with the evil eye. It's all kinds of stuff. Brazil has a bunch of crazy stuff. If somebody gives you, I won't pronounce it because I don't know Portuguese, ojo gordo, which means the fat eye or the gluttonous eye. Boy, They have to put plants out and in their doorways for their homes or their businesses. Specific plants prevent specific evil eye.
Good God.
Yeah, it's fine.
It is pervasive.
Find something else to believe in that's silly. Right. This is just
yeah. And so that's the thing. If someone looks at you funny, how about just cut everybody a break and don't believe anything about it?
right.
Or
and then
ask.
go put a pin in a doll that looks like them and fuck their shit up.
Right. Finally, some reason.
Yeah.
Or you can do what they do in parts of India, which is like something to do with waving rock salt or red chilies or oiled cloth over a person. That works too.
That's called seasoning. Yeah.
Sounds delicious.
Season your way out of the stink eye.
That's
The
right.
stink eye, whatever it's called, the evil eye.
Yeah. So there you have it. Belief that transcends. I just love when you get a belief that's about magic that isn't really that people who have specific religions still believe in. That has nothing to do with
kind of old folk magic, and
I'm straining. There must be, but outside of the Book of the Two Towers, I can't think of a biblical reason to fear an evil eye. It's
there
gotta be in
are
somewhere.
people. There are biblical references that people attribute to it. There are scriptural references in all of the major practices. So there are more specific ones
casting his eye upon him or
in
something.
Muslim in Islam.
Right.
So you're saying there's bullshit reasons to believe in this bullshit?
Yeah. So, like in Islam, there's a quote from the Prophet himself, peace be upon him, and here's a quote: "And indeed, those who disbelieve would almost make you slip with their eyes when they hear the message and say, 'Indeed, he is mad.'"
I like that you're reading that out of the little balloon next to the cartoon you drew.
Yeah,
That's nice.
thank you.
That'll be on our website.
Thank you. Yes, we're going to post that. I love how often you try to get me killed.
Well, it's because of your fucking stink eye.
Yeah,
Your evil eye casting
have
upon me.
Well, fucking wear your amulet then, Jesus.
Can you retaliate against the source of the? I mean, because if your
You
neighbor
find
gives
the
you
original
stink eye-
vampire. Right? Is that what you're saying?
No, but if your neighbor's giving you the stink eye every day, it costs him nothing.
Right.
And every day you have to crack an egg over your head and sprinkle yourself with rock salt.
Right, exactly.
It's going to get expensive after a while.
Yeah.
Can you do something to your neighbor? Can you stink eye him back?
You stink eye him back, and that's how this fucking thing works.
Gotcha.
And each of these amulets and stuff, by the way, a lot of them are theoretically they reflect the curse back on the cursor.
Gotcha.
So you know
That's what they told us when we bought ours.
it's basically
like
the
a mirror.
I'm rubber, you're glue
Right.
of magic beliefs.
Unless they're wearing one.
And then it gets caught in a perpetual back and forth, and whoever walks in the middle is in real trouble.
Yeah, it's crossing the streams at that point. Well,
Here I found a biblical reference to you that some people give for this. This is from Luke. It's the Luke 11:34. The eye is the lamp of your body. When your eye is clear, your whole body is also full of light. But when it is bad, your body is also full of darkness.
Oh, there you go.
It doesn't really
I was
say-
wrong.
Yeah, I mean there are the Bible mentions eyes a lot,
Sure.
and if you want to read into that, it's pretty easy to fucking read into it.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So Scripture kind of supports it, not really, but if you want to, as with all things, you can support it scripturally. It's fine.
Exactly.
well, if we've learned anything here, I think it's that we should be saying Merry Christmas again. So
Right?
go out and do that, people. Keep your eyes to yourselves. Don't look at anybody,
And
or a chicken's going to get stabbed.
right,
So,
exactly. All right.
It was a very, very informative segment, Dan. Thanks.
You're very welcome.
Let's move
Moving
on.
Uncle Dan,
Oh, hello.
'tis the season.
I hear those sleigh bells ringling,
Yep,
ding,
and
ting, tingling.
Not
too.
all of them are sleigh bells.
That's true. The most persistent bells this time of year, at least in these United States and other civilized countries,
Right.
is the annoyance that is.
The Salvation Army.
That's right.
Let's just get right fucking to it.
Yeah,
guys.
dive in there. Mark, you're going to teach us all about the beautiful charity of the Sally Ann.
We're going to meet this very peculiar holdover from the 19th century that still haunts parking lots across these United States and probably many of the Canadian territories as well.
Yeah.
And they're kind of all over the world. And we're going to find out that they specifically bedevil a very surprising country.
Oh?
This kind of surprised me. But anyway, we've all felt that pang of guilt maybe in life when we walk past that chilly soul standing outside by the tripod with the red kettle in it, ringing the bell with no gloves on in the winter. And you're like, I could throw a few coins in.
Sure.
What's the harm? Well, I'm going to tell you what the harm is, and that you probably shouldn't throw a few coins in. So the Salvation Army that we've all seen around was founded in 1865 in London by William and Catherine Booth, who were both staunch anti-alcohol activists and staunchly anti-labor rights. So
lovely.
Yeah. If there's one thing that we can say about the Lord, it's that he hated when people were paid fairly.
Exactly. He hated wine and he hated people getting money. So there's an odd little aside that I just thought was weird, that their first of many public confrontations where they would go into bars and kind of attack drunks with tuba music was in London's Blind Beggar Pub.
Oh.
Yeah, just thought that was a nice little piece of history.
Yeah.
So
because everybody loves that guy that comes to you and preaches at you when you about the thing that you're currently doing.
This is a turbocharged version of the guy with the guitar at the party.
Right.
A 12-piece brass band showing up while you're just trying to have your drink. So here is the actual mission statement for their militant little brass band army.
Oh.
The Salvation Army, an international movement, is an evangelical part of the Universal Christian Church. Its message is based on the Bible. Its ministry is motivated by the love of God. Its mission is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and to meet the human needs in his name without discrimination.
Well, that sounds great.
I feel like there's an asterisk next to it.
We're going to find out there's a little problem with that last sentence structure. But back to their history a bit. So their temperance crusade against alcohol, obviously, was what really set them apart early on. So in their spiffy quasi-military uniforms, they'd march into a pub or a bar, fire up an old-style military brass band, and they would sing hymns or popular music with the words rewritten to support their evangelicism and their crusade. As you might expect, this was not always met with the joyful wonder they'd hoped it would be.
No, that sounds like the reason why bartenders keep guns.
Take me down to the temperate city where the grass is green and the girls are comely.
And the girls are never prettier than they were when I started the evening.
And then rocks and bottles. So literally they were chased out of bars all the time, but they were good Christian pricks, so they kept at it. And they're also very well known for being antagonistic to a group of people called the Wobblies.
Oh, yes.
The IWW, or the old Industrial Workers of the World, was a socialist workers union and affiliated parties that were trying to improve the conditions of the working person and therefore lift them out of poverty.
And the IWW was especially famous because they were the one workers union that would let in anybody.
Yeah.
It didn't matter their race.
Yep.
It didn't matter their, if they were
profession.
upside down. It didn't matter. They would let you in, whatever your profession, whatever your race, whatever.
They were trying to organize everything.
Yeah.
They were trying, and that was their way to get people out of poverty and destitution, was to make working life work better for people, to make capitalism work better for people, essentially, right? So
fuck them.
So the Salvation Army hated them. So actual brawls would break out between Salvation Army speakers or their bands and IWW speakers. So it's the late 19th century at this point. You can guess which side the cops jumped in on, right? The radical leftist rabble-rousers making trouble for the bosses, or the nice Christian folks just wanting to play some smart marches. So while the Wobblies were trying to make structural changes in the way capitalism worked, basically lift people out of poverty, the Salvation Army was very, very much invested in making sure that the God-ordained wealthy were not to be discomforted.
Right.
And that gambling, alcoholism, etc., were not symptomatic of structural failures in society at large, but were the failings of individual gamblers and drunks.
Of course.
And in fact, co-founder Catherine Booth, who seems like a very nice person, made the very real political agenda of this apolitical organization clear when she was addressing the wealthy donors, and she said, "The Salvation Army is the only organization whose members to any appreciable extent buttonhole the dangerous classes on their own ground and turn them away from anarchy, infidelity, and socialism.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Well, the truth is, who can you give your charity to if there are no more poor people?
That's right. And that need buttonholing, apparently. That was the fashion of the time. So a little more cheerfully, her husband, William Booth, said, the 3 S's best express the way in which the Army administered to the down and outs. First soup, second soap, and finally salvation.
Can I skip the last one?
Yeah, thanks for the soup and soap.
Yeah.
I've got a brass band to go see. So they began. So the Army began this Christian evangelizing outreach to the rabble and the working class in the English-speaking world, especially.
Yeah,
and they were mostly welcomed with open arms because in crowded cities with high unemployment and social ills that come with it, they were only too happy to have them. And remember, most countries had no real social safety net.
Right, because they were giving food, they were giving... Yeah, the soup and soap thing is real.
Yeah, and in exchange, you had to sit through a little bit of a salvation situation.
Right.
So, but good on them. They were feeding people when societies were failing to kind of do that properly. So, but the other side of that is, it is those people on the ragged edge of society that tend to be the most exploitable, the easiest to take advantage of. So good thing that didn't happen. So most people know the Salvation Army is a charitable organization, and it is for sure that. It has done and continues to be one of the first groups in following massive disasters and mass casualty events like the tsunami. We all know about the thrift stores, etc. The point of this segment isn't to say they don't do good. They do, but it's pretty conditional.
Right.
And it's so mixed up with evangelism that ethical people should look to donate elsewhere. And remember, it is an evangelical Christian literal church.
Yeah. You're not giving to a charity. You're giving to a church that does some charitable stuff.
Right. And they put their charity up, the appearance of the charity up front.
Right.
And in so doing, a lot of people don't actually think they're donating to a church.
Yeah, you're donating to somebody's church. You might as well go in and throw something onto a collection plate or whatever.
So they have the 11 principles that kind of that they believe in. And I found these 2 were very interesting. We believe that our first parents were created in a state of innocency, which is a new word to me. But through their disobedience, they lost their purity and happiness, and that in consequence of their fall, all men have become sinners, totally depraved, and as such are justly exposed to the wrath of God.
Totally depraved. I love that we're all totally not just you could be partially depraved or even mostly
or maybe
depraved.
You just cheated at a card game one time.
Nope,
but
you are totally depraved.
No choice. And then another one is, we believe in the immortality of the soul, the resurrection of the body, the general judgment at the end of the world, in the eternal happiness of the righteous, and in the endless punishment of the wicked. Jesus. Just they want to make it very clear where they stand on this stuff. So, a lot of typical evangelical shite, and who cares?
Yeah.
But part of what makes the Army insidious is that the reliance that has long been placed on it by governments, most interestingly, Australia, has allowed their prime directive of evangelizing to creep into loads of places it should not. So all over the world, but it seems, again, most intensely in Australia, the government relies on the Army to administer a range of social services like homeless outreach, drug and alcohol counseling, old folks home, daycare, even employment service centers, etc. Now, one of their foundational principles is, quote, spiritual welfare. Its charitable work remains indirect evangelical work, right? So missionary work by another name. And as one soldier said, and yes, they have this whole military rank thing going on, like Scientology. They have uniforms and all that shit. Quote, all the time at any task, I'm doing the work of an evangelist. The aim is to communicate Jesus. So before they get whatever social or religious assignment training that they're going to, they first get training in overt and covert evangelism. So if they're administering government-funded social services in secular societies, they're always sneaking Jesus into it. On top of that, investigations have shown that in some cases, the people running the jobs programs or drug treatment have little to no training in whatever life and death program they're running. Even shittier, a lot of the people they employ in thrift shops and other enterprises are former addicts, former convicts, and the disabled, which you would think is kind of noble. But again, they are the most exploitable classes of people. And investigations have shown super shitty working conditions, below poverty wages for vulnerable people, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
There are also numerous stories of exploitation of indigenous people throughout the world, most terribly Aboriginal missions in, again, Australia. Come on, Australia, what the fuck? Where their culture was erased and replaced with the Army's version of Christianity, and children were forcibly removed and adopted out to white families, a policy that continued into the 1960s.
Which we here in Utah know nothing about.
Right. Yeah.
And nobody around here has taken indigenous people out of their families.
Exactly.
And continues at our southern border to this day. So, and of course, lastly, there's the Salvation Army's revulsion towards the LGBTQ community the world over.
Surprise.
Right. You skipped on in their little articles of faith there, you skipped the no homo one.
Yeah, well, they added one, and I didn't want to read because they try to make it seem like it's really gay affirming. It's not.
That's cute, though.
So anyway, when you drop a buck in that kettle, it may go to disaster relief, or it may go to fun things like their fight to prevent New Zealand from decriminalizing homosexual behavior in 1986. They lost big on that one, and in the blistering public rebuke that followed, they called for everyone to treat each other with respect.
Right. Treat meaning... Hey, just because we're hateful doesn't mean you guys can be mean to us.
We lost, so shut up.
Exactly.
Or their fight to force laws in the UK that would prevent any school or local authorities, and this was in the 2000s, from promoting, the acceptability of homosexuality as a pretend relationship, end quote.
Yeah, they work really hard on that one.
Yeah, and that's a fight they won. That law has since been repealed, but not before a ton of schools closed down pro-LGBTQ student organizations, and a lot of pain kind of resulted from that. Or you might be funding their threat in 2004 to shut down all their soup kitchens in New York City if the city went ahead with forcing everyone doing business in the city to treat their LGBTQ employees like human beings. The Salvation Army, which for reasons that make perfect sense in this anecdote was nicknamed the Starvation Army by the Wobblies, threatened to withhold food from desperate people if they couldn't keep being shitty to whatever gay people were luckless enough to be in their employ or need a bed for the night.
Right. They wanted to not even to not have to hire them also.
Yeah. And in fact, one article I read was by a guy who had experienced homelessness years prior to writing this article, and went to in the middle of the winter, went to the Salvation Army for emergency help, which they predicated on the condition that he and his boyfriend break up before they could eat.
No kidding.
Yeah. So, Jesus loves them. So that's the Salvation Army, y'all. There are plenty of good people out there doing good things because they have a functioning moral compass, not because hungry people can be snookered to hear about Jesus if you dangle a hot meal in front of them.
Yeah, it's probably best not to support the good deeds of a hate group.
Exactly. Right, because that's giving them cover.
Right.
And good that they're doing good deeds, but it's fucking giving them cover. So, if you're feeling generous, you can give to the amazing non-proselytizing people at orgs like Doctors Without Borders, the underappreciated Veterinarians Without Borders, the amazing people at Modest Needs, the critical work of the Trevor Project, the awesome Foundation Beyond Belief, and of course, as you know, our pet cause this coming month, the proverbial watchers on the wall, the incredible Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Right, which you can give to and help your favorite uncles all at one time by becoming a donor to our show.
It's a win-win.
You can keep religion out of schools and keep your uncles and eggnog through December. Why wouldn't you do that?
Who loses in that?
So skip the kettle. Homophobia always gets plenty of funding without your help somehow. So,
yeah.
All right, let's move on.
Moving on.
Well, Uncle Dan.
Yes.
It is that time of year.
Yeah, we're making an announcement. That's the time it is.
Yes.
Announcement time.
It is announcement time, and I think our announcement is an exciting one. We have just followed on the heels of a kind of tremendously successful charity drive with our friends at Cogdis and the Scathing Atheist.
And inspired by them, we're going to have a far less successful charity drive of our own.
We aspire to some tiny percentage of that.
Right.
So, but who are we giving to this year, Dan?
We, along with my other podcast, Thank God I'm Atheist, which you guys are also a part of.
Yes,
frequently.
sister cast.
We are going to, we've decided that we want to give to the Freedom from Religion Foundation.
Yes.
This is an organization that is working hard to keep the wall of separation between church and state standing in this country.
Right.
It is an uphill battle.
Build the wall.
At this moment.
Build the wall.
No, I don't like that particular chant. But,
maintain the existing wall so everyone's freedom can be respected.
When we want it.
That's very catchy, guys.
Constantly.
Very good.
Yeah.
No, if there has ever been a moment in American history
Right.
when we need the Freedom from Religion Foundation,
Yeah.
it is this moment.
Yeah.
The other side, the religious of this country, specifically the evangelical Christians, are working their asses off to tear that wall down.
They're feeling their oats.
And pouring a tremendous amount of cash and influence into that fight. So
they've made it specifically their goal to overwhelm our court system,
Yes.
so that we can't fight all of the battles.
That's
Exactly.
right. So help us out. Help the Freedom from Religion Foundation out. Let's get some fingers in that dike and help them maintain some sanity in this country.
Right. And the way we're doing this is that we are giving 20% of everything that we as a podcast take in, both podcasts, for the month of December to the Freedom from Religion Foundation. So that means that what you can do is go to the How to Heretic website, howtoheretic.com, click on the charity button or on the patron button.
Yes.
Both will send you to
Our Patreon page.
Patreon page, and then you just sign up to at whatever level you want to. If you're already a patron, you can choose to bump up your patronage for this month or perpetually, however you want to work it. But
this month is 365 days, just so you know.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. The
Friends
month
out there.
This time in the month of December.
It's the other fix. Like leap year is the one fix. This is giant month. It's how we get around the calendar.
But we're just encouraging everybody to be. If you've thought about becoming a patron of our show, now is exactly the right moment to do it, because so much of it will go to such a good cause, and the rest of it will go to a bad cause, which is us.
Right. You're gonna keep us in eggnog, like I said. So,
Right.
So we will keep talking about it in upcoming episodes.
Yes, but we're very excited. Please help us out if you can. If there's any way that you can become a patron and help us reach as high a goal as we can, we would greatly appreciate it.
Or if you feel like it's time to up your donation to the podcast, this would be a great time.
Yep, absolutely.
And once again, there's always time to just go to iTunes or Stitcher, wherever you can give us 5-star review. Please keep doing that, because that helps people get the good word. So thanks. Let's do this.
Unky Mark.
Hello.
There are legends. There are ways in which one legend smashes into another legend.
Babe Ruth, ladies and gentlemen. This is the sports section.
No, I'm talking about more in a sort of, you got your chocolate on my peanut butter.
Oh, I see. So you may be talking about one of the world's great religions clashing with something like, I don't know, cryptozoology.
I am indeed, and I think Uncle Doug, you've got some.
Tell us how the Loch Ness Monster is forbidden in Leviticus.
Well, it's funny you should say that. I guess I'll start out with, what do you get when you mix 19th century extremist violence, mid-20th century slut-shaming, and good old-fashioned American religious gullibility?
Dan.
Bigfoot, of course.
Oh, okay.
Wait, slut-shaming?
Oh, yeah. Well,
what?
I'm very excited about this.
Okay, that took a turn.
You'll know what I'm talking about. So the persistent and deeply strange Mormon folklore that Cain,
as in brother of Abel, son of Adam and Eve,
still walks the earth and is what we know as Bigfoot, comes from a single account by a gentleman named David W. Patton.
And if there's a W in it, it's probably a Mormon.
That's right.
If you got a middle initial.
A middle initial that doesn't mean anything.
It's either
a ceremonial.
It's either an assassin or a Mormon.
Yeah.
Right. So David W. Patton from the 1830s. Now, this account, which we'll get to, is far from a first-hand account, as it comes from a letter written by someone else, a friend of Patton named Abraham Smoot, recalling the story told to him by Patton. And then this letter itself was quoted in a 1900 biography of Patton written by Lycurgus Wilson.
So
it's
in
like-
Mormonism, that's called a first-hand account.
Exactly. That's as close to the source material
Yeah.
as you're going to get. So more than likely, this tale would have remained totally obscure and almost totally unknown were it not for its inclusion by one Prophet Spencer W. Kimball in his 1969 seminal work, The Miracle of Forgiveness.
Yes. Which is really
What a great word.
one of the most wonderfully misnamed books.
Yeah, exactly.
It is to paraphrase, How to Direct Your Hatred.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Tales of the Bigfoot.
This bile-filled screed of guilt and slut-shaming was and is forced on Mormons of all ages for indiscretions ranging from impure thoughts to masturbation, Gnostical turpitude to adultery. So, in Mormon culture, if you screw up sufficiently enough, more than likely, when you go to confess to your bishop, he's going to hand you a copy of this book called The Miracle of Forgiveness.
If they don't blood atone you.
Exactly.
How to hate yourself and others.
If they don't cut your head clean the fuck off.
Right.
Then you're given a pamphlet.
And in this book, oddly, this account just doesn't, it's so incongruous that this account isn't here, but here it is. On page 127, in a chapter discussing the list of unforgivable sins, Kimball
is being Bigfoot.
Kimball includes the following account from Patton. Quote, "As I was riding along the road on my mule, I suddenly noticed a very strange personage walking beside me."
By the way, only Mormons use the word personage.
Right. His head was about even with my shoulders as I sat in my saddle. He wore no clothing, but was covered with hair. His skin was very dark. So we know he's a bad guy.
Right, exactly. That's Mormon code.
Yeah. Here's the best part. I asked him where he dwelt, and he replied that he had no home, that he was a wanderer in the earth and traveled to and fro. He said that he was very miserable creature and had earnestly sought death during his sojourn upon the earth, but that he could not die, and his mission was to destroy the souls of men.
Also, he has a ring that makes him invisible.
Exactly.
So he's not so different from your uncles here.
Yes, indeed.
He's just trying to die. He's miserable, and he's trying to ruin everybody else's faith.
Exactly. So
I'm down with this guy.
The account concludes, about the time he expressed himself thus, "I rebuked him in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ and by virtue of the holy priesthood, and commanded him to go hence, and he immediately departed out of my sight."
Because who wouldn't leave if you pulled some shit like that?
Well, I gotta to be a little bit fair to Patton here. Is this not just like every freaky public transportation guy who sits next to you on the bus?
Right.
And you're like, "Hey man, how are you?" "Oh, I have no home. I wander to and fro and seek the souls of men." It's like, okay, pulling on the cord.
Although I haven't tried, but maybe should try in that situation. "I rebuke you in the name of the Lord, and using the priesthood power which I hold,
Melchizedek.
I send you away."
You know what? And the guy next to you on the bus will be like, "Okay,
I'm gonna leave.
I'm going.
Somebody out there
You
give
win.
that a try."
You win."
So notice that Patton nor Kimball explicitly claim in this little anecdote that the character in the story was Cain, or that he was what we now call Bigfoot.
The Sasquatch.
But that is what has been widely interpreted by Mormon culture.
Yeah, how did it get to Cain? Like, okay,
Good
big
question.
furry guy, I get maybe taking that to Bigfoot, although ability to speak in full sentences seems a little suspect.
Right.
But Cain is especially tricky.
Well, let's see if we can get there.
All right.
Let's divert for a second to discuss David W. Patton, first of all. Patton was baptized into the New Mormon Church in 1832 and went on right at the beginning, went on several short missions for the church. He went on to become one of the original 12 apostles.
He went on one mission for each of his wives and daughters.
Exactly.
Right? So
Exactly.
when he came home, he's like, I'm not married. I don't have kids anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
He became one of the original 12 apostles in 1836.
Wow.
And it was while he was on one of these missions to Paris, Tennessee, that he had his encounter. There's a Paris in Tennessee.
There's a Paris in all the shitty states.
Oh, okay. This was. I thought this was in Utah, but they weren't here yet.
Nope, far from here.
Yeah. So Tennessee. Okay, Sasquatch. Go.
So in 1838, tensions between Missourians and Mormons got so bad that a group of Missouri militia kidnapped 3 Mormons. Patton was sent to rescue them, and the ensuing battle, known as the Battle of Crooked River, resulted in 16 casualties and 4 fatalities.
They were all killed by a Bigfoot. The Mormon Hulk.
Among them was Patton. He died.
Oh.
Although the 3 Mormons were rescued, this skirmish led pretty much directly to Missouri Governor Lilburn Boggs' extermination order, which led to the Mormons fleeing Missouri for their very lives.
Right.
So now we can divert for a minute to Cain, now that we know who Patton is. In the 4th and 5th chapters of Genesis, as I'm sure everyone well knows, Cain was the first son of Adam and Eve, whose second son was called Abel, Cain was a tiller of the ground, and Abel was a shepherd. So Cain makes an offering to God.
Because when there's only 4 people, you can specialize.
You specialize.
Like that.
Exactly.
You just get to have one
No,
job.
you got the flock.
Everybody gets a job.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll watch the grass grow. You're good.
Eve was the accountant.
Yeah, she did their taxes every quarter. Very.
She was diligent.
Yeah.
So Cain makes an offering to God of the fruits of the earth, and it appears that it's not totally clear, but that God did not respect Cain's offering.
Because fuck you.
I know.
That's why.
Here's some grass. So this caused Cain's countenance to fall.
Oh.
God asks him why he's in a bad mood. Although leaving aside that God is supposed to be all-knowing, the answer to the question was in the previous verse.
Right,
Anyway,
yeah, exactly.
Cain then takes his brother Abel into a field, and out of nowhere, and apropos of nothing, kills him. So,
Wow.
why does Cain do this?
Yeah, okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
I've never really known why he killed him. I thought it was... Was it over a bowl of soup, or that's Jacob and Esau?
Here's the thing. The other thing that I love is that, by the way, going back to the whole God and Abel and Cain thing, it is the perfect archetype of an abusive parent.
Right.
When you hit him and then you go, why are you so sad? What's the matter with you?
Right.
Yeah. All right,
So-
Doug, give us more on Cain.
So why does Cain do this? Well, there's no explanation for it in the book that the story's in, but we have to wait until the first book of John, near the very end of the Bible, for this enlightening explanation. Quote, "And wherefore slew he him? Because his own works were evil and his brother's righteous." There you go. Now you understand.
Okay, right.
So that's in the New Testament?
That's at the end of the New Testament. So Cain kills Abel. We have to wait till the end of the book to find out why.
Wow, that's
You know what? It's a classic dramatic structure. You got to bookend it.
That's right.
that's some Shyamalan.
So, yeah. At any rate, God asks Cain where Abel is, and Cain famously replies, "Am I my brother's keeper?" But then instantly Cain says to God, "My punishment is greater than I can bear." What punishment? I don't know yet. So some nice building of tension
I know
and
what it
character
is.
development.
I think we know what it is.
Right.
He started growing hair instantly.
He's black.
So God's response to the first murder in the history of the world, by the first man born on the earth, by the way,
Yeah.
is to announce to everyone that whoever slays Cain shall be visited with 7 times the punishment that Cain gave Abel. I have questions.
Right? How do you? I'm going to kill you 7 times more than you killed that guy.
What?
There are now only 3 people on the earth. There are only 3 people on the earth, so fully 1/3 of the global population is actually guilty of the crime.
Right.
The other 2/3 are his parents. Who's God talking to?
I don't
Who's he
know.
giving a warning to?
Right.
And how does one mete out 7 times the death penalty?
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's a good
I'm
question.
going to kill your knees, and I'm going to kill your feet. I'm going to kill your cock.
so
Dig you up again and throw you in the Tiber, I guess.
anyway, God puts a mark on Cain so that no one will kill him. What this mark could have been has not caused any problems anywhere ever since.
Right.
Why is Africa looking at it like that?
So God is the punishment for Cain killing Abel is that anybody who kills Cain, I kill 7 times over, and now he's a black guy.
Yeah.
No, now he's marked, and we get to interpret that how we will. So, yes, he's black.
Yeah. So Cain...
Well, I'm afraid a lot of people beat us to that interpretation.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
the chocolate milk is spilled.
Cain leaves Eden by the east exit to the land of Nod, where he immediately gets his wife pregnant and has children. I have questions.
Sure.
Sure.
So, I mean, leaving all of the silliness aside, okay, whatever. So that's pretty much it for Cain in the Bible.
At best, it's his sister.
At best, and that's what the Mormons come up with.
Well, it has to be his sister,
Who else could it be?
but is it his dad's kid or is it his own kid?
Or is it Abel's?
Oh, it could be Abel's.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it for Cain in the Bible, except for a few references here and there and that throwaway explanation in John.
Yeah.
However, part of what would become the Book of Abraham, which was perhaps Joseph Smith's most ambitious and most laughable hoax,
Right.
which we'll cover in more depth another time.
But but just explain what it is
Well,
so that.
Yeah, and part of it, Joseph wrote the Book of Moses, and the Book of Abraham is a quote-unquote translation of a papyrus
Right.
that Joseph Smith actually stumbled
if our
across.
viewers, the fuck am I talking about? If our listeners are less familiar with strange Mormon ephemera and more familiar with funny fail gifs online, where a guy kicks the soccer ball and hits the post and knocks him out. Things like that. Right. That's kind of what this is.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the
It's
books
the scriptural equivalent.
Exactly. One of the books in the Book of Abraham is the Book of Moses, which purports to be a first-hand account, so written by Moses, of creation itself and several notable events in the Old Testament. And so here Joseph gives a little bit more color to the Cain story. He says that Adam and Eve had many more children before Cain and Abel, thus explaining who Cain ended up marrying. Yes.
No, they did.
His sister.
Oh, my God.
Yes, they did, Mark.
Oh, my God.
And Joseph went on to clarify Cain's motive. Joseph claimed Cain entered into a pact with Satan in which Cain would kill, and therefore Satan would reward him with positioning him among the sons of Adam. So that's Joseph's explanation for the story of Cain. I don't think it clears it up any.
Yeah.
Not the greatest,
So grateful for that.
not the greatest fanfic.
No, definitely not. So at that point, when Cain became in a secret combination with Satan, he was known as the master of this great secret, or Master Mahan, according to Joseph.
Sexy.
So there's that.
That's Cain's name, Master Mahan.
So all that being said, Mormons have interpreted...
Not mayhem.
Mahan, M-A-H-A-N.
Okay.
Okay. So
Is
Mormons...
that like a blue jay? Like, what is it?
Because Master Mayhem would be a really
That'd
cool...
be a great title.
Like,
Yeah.
that's like a Marvel character or something.
pro wrestler suddenly in the Book of
Exactly.
Genesis. Why not?
Or someone in a Morton Joe's caravan. So Mormons have interpreted Cain's punishment to be that he would walk the earth forever and would never know death. There are several other characters in Mormon lore that have not died, but all of these have been righteous followers of God.
Yeah.
John the Beloved, for example.
Yep.
And the three Nephites, which Uncle Mark covered in episode 39.
Yep.
So,
And it's totally true. Shut up.
right. So in the cases of Nephites and John the Beloved, this was a reward.
Right.
In the case of Cain, it was a punishment. And
Right. The same exact thing.
Exactly.
It's a punishment for one and reward for others.
Yeah, I'm very confused by this, but sure.
So, kind of as the lore goes, over time, Cain has, grown hair all over his body. He's obviously black.
Right.
And one wonders what he did during the flood, but I'll leave that up to you guys. So,
He's treaded water for 100
or
days.
just walked around on the bottom of the ocean.
No, you know what?
That's true. He can't die.
You know what? He Cape Feared it on the bottom of the ark. He hung onto the transmission until they got to Ararat, and then he was in more of a pickle then. But
Right, exactly.
you can't kill him.
He grabbed a gorilla and went on 2 by 2.
Yeah.
There you go. So lastly, let's divert into Bigfoot for a second, or Sasquatch, as his friends call him. The Bigfoot phenomenon is primarily North American in origin and grouped heavily in the Pacific Northwest, although there have been reported sightings across the continent and even in different parts of the world. What would eventually be the current concept of Bigfoot was grouped together from various urban legends, Native American tales, and misidentified fauna.
And a beef jerky commercial.
That's right. And although these legends did exist in some time or another at the time that David W. Patton was killing Missouri militia, we have no idea if what he was referring to was meant to be Cain or Bigfoot. We just don't know.
Right.
So there you
He
go.
just saw a furry guy.
Yeah, or didn't.
Or did. You're right.
Or
right.
just
More
made it up.
likely did not.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we know for sure is that Spencer W. Kimball credulously included this account in his book, and that was mandated reading for all Mormons through the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even to today. And we know that in 1977, hikers in the high Uinta Mountains of Utah spotted a 10-foot-tall, hairy creature walking on its hind legs, matched with the now popularized account from Kimball's book published only 8 years earlier, and presto.
Ta-da.
You have Bigfoot Cain.
No, hang on. Wait 1 second, Doug. If it was supposed to be Cain, and Cain had come out of the Garden of Eden, how could he have been in North America? I know you have the answer to this.
I
really
do.
Put me on the spot here.
You know the answer.
Because the Garden of Eden was in Missouri.
The
That's right.
Garden of Eden is here.
Ding.
We get the Garden of Eden.
Tennessee is hardly a hop, skip, and a jump
Yeah,
from
it's barely.
independence.
Yeah, he barely walked 15 feet.
That's
Yeah.
right. Or I thought you could just walk the earth for 6,000 years. You might end up in Utah.
If you're not very careful.
If you're not lucky, yeah, if you're unlucky.
Take a lot of wrong turns. It should be mentioned that the Mormon Church and its apologist site, fairmormon.org, go to great lengths to distance themselves from this obvious and embarrassing bullshit.
I wonder why.
They claim that Kimball only included it as an interesting anecdote, not meant to be taken literally, which could be applied to the entirety of Mormon canon.
Right, yeah. That's an easy out that they will continue to apply liberally as more and more science
Exactly.
appears.
And lastly, they claim there's plenty of evidence that Cain died. So how could this be true?
There's plenty of evidence. Oh my God! Do they have it in little baggies?
Oh my God!
Evidence that Cain died.
Feel a blue light in a baggie.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So, question.
Yeah.
Spencer W. Kimball, was he a prophet when he quote unquote wrote this book?
Oh, a good question. I don't know. He was an apostle for sure. I don't know if he had yet ascended to prophetship yet. I could look that up, but it was in 66 or whatever that he wrote the book.
Because that would be a really complicating factor, because everything a prophet says is by nature prophecy.
But they adopted this book as like quasi-Mormon canon while he was prophet. So there's really no walking away from this.
And just so that everybody understands, just to paint a quick picture, if just immediately former president of the church, Thomas Monson, is the emperor of the church, Spencer Kimball is the Yoda. Just so that we know.
Yeah.
He's just
because he didn't literally talk like that.
And he was little and he had he looked a lot like you. Anyway.
That's literally true.
Yeah, so this has been a beautiful examination of racism and insanity through the lens of cryptozoology.
Right, yeah.
I think we should do this more often.
There you go. You're welcome.
Delightful. Let's move on.
Let's move on.
Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you. Go ahead and send us an email, howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you've been cursed to wander the earth forever and talk to strange men in Tennessee, tell us about it on a voicemail at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. We're also on Twitter @HowToHeretic and, of course, on Facebook.
Yes, don't forget that this month is Charity Month, so thanks so much to all of our current patrons, and thanks for everybody who signs up new.
Thanks to Cody Layton for editing the show.
And thank all of you, dear friends, for tuning in.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.